Luna arrived in Los Angeles with a singular, desperate aim to claim the love and protection of the only man she has ever truly known as family. Homeless and adrift after Bill Spencer's cold decree sent her onto the streets, she clung to the hope that her birth father, Dr. John Finn Walton, would welcome her with open arms. In Forrester Creations' sun-drenched lobby, Luna's wide, pleading eyes betrayed both fear and resolve, as she approached Finn, a man she had known only through whispers and old photographs until recent days. She told him, her voice trembling but unwavering, that he was a good man, that nothing in the world could compel him to turn his back on his own child. Every word was a careful arrow aimed at Finn's heart. He had dedicated his life to healing others, to bringing comfort and safety to every patient he touched. And now here was a beating heart that needed exactly what he alone could offer. In that moment, Finn felt the weight of a lifetime of absence crush him. The years of unaware fatherhood spent building a life with Steffy, the unspoken longing that had clung to his dreams, and the sudden, fierce realization that his daughter stood before him, trembling with hope. The sterile walls of the clinic seemed to pulse with urgency as he reached out, brushing a stray lock of hair from Luna's face, unable to resist the silent plea behind those words. He found himself nodding, his professional composure dissolving into raw paternal instinct at the sound of her heartbeat echoing his own. Yet nothing in Finn's world existed in a vacuum. Steffy, whose marriage to Finn had been both a sanctuary and a battlefield of secrets, learned of Luna's audacious request before he had the chance to explain. For Steffy, the very notion of allowing a young stranger, no matter how related by blood, to step into their home was unthinkable. She remembered too well the chaos wrought by surprises hidden in the shadows, her own family torn apart by revelations, her children caught in the crossfire of loyalties she could scarcely manage. The Cliff House, perched precariously above the roaring Pacific, had become a refuge of hard-won peace and carefully cultivated routines. Here, Steffy believed, children thrived on stability, on the knowledge that their parents' promises were as firm as the bedrock beneath their feet. And so when Finn revealed that Luna would need both a place to live and a steady job, Steffy's response was swift and unyielding. There would be no compromises. She refused to have the home she had painstakingly built turned into a halfway house for emotional refugees. Steffy's voice, ringing with conviction, painted a vivid tableau of boundaries she would not allow to be crossed: the privacy of her marital sanctuary, the sanctity of her son Hayes' daily life, and the trust she had placed in Finn to protect their family. Though her words stung with the sharp edge of exclusion, they came from the core of her devotion to that fragile peace, and in that moment Luna's tear-filled apology seemed both fragile and futile against Steffy's steely resolve. Caught between the desperate longing in Luna's eyes and the unassailable opposition in Steffy's stance, Finn's world spun out of orbit. In private moments, he felt the tug of paternal duty war with the allegiance he had sworn to his wife. The weekly preview delivered a scene of heart-wrenching intensity. Luna, clutching Finn's coat, implored him to remember his own capacity for unconditional love, insisting that her plight was one he could not ignore. She reminded him that bills and job applications paled next to the truth of blood and family, that to spurn her now would send her back into a world of cold streets and darker nights. Finn's eyes glistened with tears as he folded her trembling hands in his caregiver's instinct to provide comfort colliding with the husband's oath to preserve the sanctity of his home. He thought of Hayes, his innocent son, and of the daily rituals of bedtime stories and laughter that defined their bond. Could he bring a stranger into that circle without fracturing the very foundation of his marriage? Yet when Finn pictured Luna alone, hungry for the father she had never known, he felt a guilt sharper than any surgical incision, an ache that demanded remedy. And so, with a voice thick with emotion and resolve, he informed Steffy that Luna would be coming to live at the Cliff House, that she would work as Hayes' nanny until she found her footing, and that any objection she raised would be met with the unshakable truth of his paternal conviction. Steffy's reaction tore through the silence like a hurricane. She pressed a hand to the heart she feared would break. her features a storm of betrayal and disbelief. Of course, Finn had never hesitated to welcome Liam back under their roof when his heart was wounded, when he needed comfort and counsel even after the turmoil Liam had brought to their lives. Why, Steffy demanded, could she not extend the same courtesy to her new stepdaughter? Why was Liam's return a boon to their household while Luna's arrival was a threat? As Finn's declaration hung in the air, each word a chisel struck against the bedrock of their marriage. Steffy's composure shattered. She refused to be painted as an unreasonable tyrant, reminded Finn sharply of the sanctity of the vows they exchanged, and accused him of placing a stranger's claim above his own wife's peace. The prospect of divorce slipped from his lips like a dreadful promise. If she would close her heart to Luna, he would close the door on their marriage. In that harrowing instant, Steffy saw the full breadth of Finn's determination. She felt the cold logic of his ultimatum clash with the fierce warmth of her own love for him. The room crackled with the raw energy of competing loyalties. Steffy's devotion to protecting her home and son, Finn's paternal guilt and responsibility, and Luna's desperate hope for a family that might yet embrace her. Their words blurred as emotions surged, and for a heartbeat, the cliff house itself seemed to tremble as though the very air could not bear the weight of their conflict. In the aftermath, as the Pacific winds howled against the windows and the setting sun cast long, wavering shadows across the marble floors, each soul retreated to private agony. Luna, hearing rumors of the confrontation, stood alone on the lawn below, the ambient glow of the house's lights mocking her uncertainty. She wondered if her pleas had been in vain, if she would face another night on the hard pavement, her dreams crushed by the fortress of someone else's fear. Steffy, in contrast, found herself torn between triumph and heartbreak. She had stood her ground to protect her family's sanctuary, yet the cost was the widening rift in her marriage and the sight of her beloved husband estranged by his own blood. Finn, caught between the two women he loved most, his wife and his daughter, felt the apex of his existence fractured. He paced the grand hallway, his lab coat billowing like a torn banner, each step echoing the question that now consumed him. Could he truly love two daughters unequally, or would the promise of one always diminish the promise he made to the other? As dawn approaches over Malibu, none of the questions have answers. Will Steffy relent and open her doors to Luna's trembling hope? Can Finn mend the broken trust between his wife and the daughter he never knew he had? And what choices will Luna make when faced with the chilling possibility of rejection by both her father and the home she so desperately longs to inherit? When The Bold and the Beautiful returns, viewers will find these characters at the edge of impossible decisions, their hearts laid bare by blood ties and marital vows, ready to discover whether love can bridge the deepest divides or shatter under the weight of unyielding loyalties. Tune in next week to witness the fallout of a choice that will redefine every life within the Cliff House and beyond. Hope remains blissfully unaware that beneath the surface of her world, an irreparable fissure is widening. Liam, the man she thought would always be her rock, carries within him a silent, merciless secret. A brain tumor deemed inoperable by even the most skilled surgeons. For weeks, he has lived between two worlds, one in which he clings to the hope of a future with his wife and daughter, and the other in which he confronts each sunrise knowing it may be his last. Steffy, who has watched him wrestle with this truth in furtive glances and hesitant words, refused to stand idly by as he withheld life and death information from the love of his life. She cornered him within the walls of their cliff-top sanctuary, her voice trembling yet fierce as she demanded honesty. Liam attempted to whisper half-truths, hinting at uncertainty, but the weight of his silence pressed down upon him until he could hold it no longer. He confessed the brutal reality of his diagnosis to Steffy, his words faltering at first but gaining strength as he admitted the tumor's fatal prognosis and his fear of shattering Hope's heart with the knowledge. In that moment, Steffy's maternal instincts and her own scars from Eric's hidden final days took hold, and she seized control of a narrative that belonged to more than just her husband. Determined that no loved one suffer the agony of a death foretold in whispers, She insisted on delivering the news to Hope herself, convinced that Hope's right to every second with Liam and their daughter Beth outweighed any promise of silence he had begged her to uphold. When Steffy revealed her intentions, the atmosphere crackled with urgency. In the weekly preview clip, she stands before Hope at Brooke's home, tears streaming down her cheeks as she utters the words that will shatter Hope's world. Liam's tumor cannot be removed and time is no longer on their side. Watching Steffy's anguished face, one sees the culmination of years of painful lessons, a raw portrait of a woman who once believed in keeping certain truths hidden to protect the ones she loved, but now chooses the harshness of truth because she cannot bear another traitorous secret. Liam had pleaded with both Steffy and Finn to maintain the ruse, to allow Hope one more day of blissful unawareness, but Steffy's own history, the disbelief and heartbreak of Eric's last days, taught her that the cruelest blow is the one delivered in darkness. Moreover, she could not stand by while Beth, the innocent center of her world, lost precious moments with her father due to secrecy. Kelly Spencer, whose fleeting time with her own parent had become legend, deserved no repeat of such tragedy. Beth must have every opportunity to know and love her father until fate intervenes, and Hope must have the chance to hold Liam's hand when his strength wanes. With that conviction blazing in her heart, Steffy would break the news, cost be damned. Meanwhile, across town in a far more chaotic scene, Bill Spencer remains disturbingly oblivious to the gravity of his son's condition. Despite the blood that stains the plush carpet of the Cliff House foyer, Bill overlooked the crimson droplets as mere aftermath of a trivial accident. His security team, trained to anticipate every threat to his empire, failed to inform him when an ambulance screeched into the driveway under the cover of night. Only after rumors reached his VIP suite did Bill learn that paramedics had rushed Liam to the emergency ward for urgent brain surgery. Shock gave way to guilt as he grappled with the realization that he had been deaf to the warnings of his own home. He confronted his son in the sterile corridors of the hospital, remorse twisting his features into a mask of despair. Liam, already burdened by his terminal prognosis, now bore the fresh weight of his father's neglect. Their showdown crackled with raw emotion. Bill's voice wavered as he begged forgiveness, confessing that he never imagined his boy would carry such a deadly secret alone, and Liam's anger surfaced in tight fists and syllables laced with pain, accusing Bill of caring more for boardroom wars than for the son fighting for his life. Yet amid the turmoil, a dim glimmer of calculated hope emerged, an unspoken suggestion that Bill's vast resources might yet carve out an experimental lifeline for Liam. Though the plan would skirt the edges of ethics-altering records, fast-tracking unapproved treatments, it offered a last chance at defying the terminal verdict. As father and son concluded their fraught exchange, a silent pact formed between them. Bill would marshal every asset to save Liam, even if it meant constructing a fragile tower of lies and late-night deals. As the dust settles on these seismic revelations, the ripple effects promise to upend every relationship tethered to the Walton and Spencer names. Will Hope survive the tidal wave of grief unleashed by Steffy's confession, or will her shattered trust lead her to lash out at both husband and sister-in-law? Can Liam accept his father's desperate gambit without compromising the integrity of his final days? And what toll will Bill pay when his empire collides with his conscience in the pursuit of a miracle? In the coming episodes of The Bold and the Beautiful, viewers will witness the raw intersections of love and anguish, loyalty and betrayal, truth and survival. With each heartbeat potentially marking a countdown to goodbye, these characters stand on the precipice of decisions that will define their legacies, for in a world where secrets kill more surely than disease, only the bravest dare speak the worst truths, and only the most desperate dare gamble on a final, forbidden hope. Tune in next week to experience every heart-wrenching moment of this emotional crucible.